There are approximately 8,326 regulations in the Galactic Union Emergency Response Protocol Manual. Before we begin, YouTube shows me that 93% of you haven't subscribed yet. Subscribing is free, it really supports our community, and I'd love for you to be part of it. Also, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Commander Velnash had memorized every single one of them, because that's what Vrolians do when they're bored on long patrol routes, apparently. He was about to learn that none of them, not a single blessed one, covered what he was about to walk into. The distress beacon from Station Helix 9 had come through at 600 hours, which was already annoying because Velnash had just sat down with his morning stimulant beverage. The message was standard stuff: automated SOS, mining colony, requesting immediate assistance, equipment malfunction, probably. Maybe a medical emergency. Nothing a three-person patrol couldn't handle in their sleep. Approaching Station Helix 9, announced Scout Dimri from the navigation console, their compound eyes reflecting the swirl of colors from the sensor display. Life signs detected. Minimal. Very minimal. Velnash's secondary eyelids flickered, a Vrolian tell for concern, though he'd never admit it. Define minimal. 1. Just one life signature in the residential sector. Dimri's antennae twitched nervously, which, for a Quillan, was basically the equivalent of a panic attack. Commander, the rest of the colony, they evacuated. Fast. Like, really, really fast. Lieutenant Haas grunted from the weapons station, his massive Gormath frame making the reinforced chair look like children's furniture. Equipment malfunction doesn't make people run like that. No, it didn't. Velnash pulled up the colony records on his datapad, scrolling through the manifests with his clawed finger. Station Helix 9. Mining outpost, 68 personnel. 3 extraction sites. Standard supply chain operations, cargo processing. He stopped. Dimri, pull up the cargo logs from the last shipment. On it, Commander. A pause. Then a longer pause. Then a pause that was definitely too long to be good news. Oh, that's not good. Report. Last shipment was 3 days ago. Exotic fauna transport. Rerouted from the contested fringe. Dimri's voice had gone up an octave, which was impressive for a species that communicated partly through clicking sounds. Contents listed as, biological specimens, Class 9 hazard rating, extreme caution advised, handle with... Another pause. Commander, it says, handle with prayer, which isn't even a real protocol designation. What species? Velnash interrupted, though he already knew. He could feel it in his scales, that cold, creeping sensation that every spacefaring species develops when something is very, very wrong. Dimri's mandibles clattered together. Nathrax! The bridge went silent except for the hum of the engines. Haas broke the quiet with a single word that definitely wasn't in the Union Standard Dictionary, but somehow conveyed exactly the right sentiment. Explain to me, Velnash said slowly, carefully, in the tone of someone trying very hard not to panic, why a civilian mining colony was processing a Nathrax shipment. Cargo manifests says they weren't processing it. They were just a waypoint. The shipment was supposed to transfer and move on within 6 hours. Dimri pulled up more data, their multiple eyes scanning different screens simultaneously. But there was an accident in the cargo bay. Containment breach. The adult female was... Oh no. She was killed. Crushed by a loading mech. For those unfamiliar with Nathrax, and if you are unfamiliar, congratulations on your sheltered life. They are what happens when evolution gets really, really angry and decides to create a nightmare. 6 limbs, each tipped with claws that can shred durasteel. Venomous spines running down their backs that deliver a neurotoxin capable of dropping a Gormoth in 30 seconds. Natural armor plating that laughs at small arms fire. And a territorial instinct so fierce that they've been known to track prey across entire star systems just to make a point. They're apex predators in every ecosystem they've ever been introduced to, which is why introducing them anywhere is illegal in 62 systems and strongly discouraged in all the others. Oh, and one more fun fact. Nathrax parents are insanely protective of their young. Violently, apocalyptically protective. There are documented cases of Nathrax adults dismantling entire military installations because someone got too close to their cubs, and this colony had just accidentally killed a mother. "The cubs," Velnash said. "Where are the cubs?" Manifest says 3 juveniles, approximately 6 months old. Which, Dimri consulted their database, means they're still dependent on parental care, but fully capable of killing most sentient species, if provoked. Fantastic! Haas cracked his knuckles, which sounded like breaking rocks. So we've got 3 baby murder machines running around a mining colony, probably scared, definitely hungry, and absolutely ready to shred anything that moves. That's not even the worst part, Dimri added helpfully. Velnash felt a headache forming behind his eye ridges. How? How is that not the worst part? Because if there's a mother, there's usually a father. And Nathrax males are territorial. When they find out their mate is dead and their cubs are missing, Dimri trailed off. Because, honestly, what else was there to say? The ship's computer chose that moment to be helpful. Warning: long-range sensors detecting large biological signature approaching station Helix 9. Estimated time of arrival, 2 hours, 18 minutes. Of course there was a father, because why wouldn't there be? Right, Velnash said, standing up and smoothing his uniform, a useless gesture, but it made him feel slightly more in control. New plan. We dock. We locate the remaining life sign. We extract them, and we leave before Papa Nathrax shows up looking for vengeance. Questions? Just one, Haas said, already loading his plasma rifle. What's the Union policy on shooting Nathrax cubs in self-defense? Velnash consulted his mental database of 8,326 regulations. Section 15, subsection 92. Lethal force is authorized against hostile fauna when personnel safety is at imminent risk. But, and this is important, Nathrax are classified as sentient adjacent, which means we need to file about 16 different forms afterward, assuming we survive. Bureaucracy, Haas muttered. Even the paperwork wants to kill us. They docked at Station Helix 9's main airlock without incident, which somehow made everything feel worse. The station's corridors were lit but empty, showing clear signs of hasty evacuation. Dropped equipment, open doors, a half-eaten meal in the commissary that was starting to smell questionable. Life sign is in Residential Module 9, Dimri whispered, scanning ahead with their handheld sensor. 60 meters, straight ahead, then left at the junction. They moved in formation, Haas on point because he was big enough to survive the first hit. Velnash in the middle with the command tablet. Dimri at the rear watching their backs. Standard patrol procedure, which felt laughably inadequate given what they might be walking into. The corridors were too quiet. Station background noise, air recyclers, computer hums, the subtle vibration of machinery. All of it was there, but it felt muted, like the station itself was holding its breath. They passed a cargo bay with its blast doors sealed and marked with biohazard warnings. Through the small viewport, Velnash could see the wreckage. A loading mech on its side, containers burst open, and a massive shape covered by an emergency tarp. The mother. "Keep moving," he said, though nobody had stopped. They reached Residential Module 9. The door was closed but not locked, the control panel showing green status lights. Normal. Unthreatening. Absolutely no reason for Velnash's scales to be standing on end. "Life sign is inside," Dimri confirmed. "Just one. No movement." "Could be injured," Haas suggested, though his grip on his rifle suggested he thought otherwise. "Or dead, and the sensors are picking up residual heat," Velnash countered. "That's cheerful." Velnash positioned himself at the door controls. Haas and Dimri flanked the entrance, weapons ready. This was it. The moment they'd either find a survivor in need of medical attention, or they'd find out what happens when baby Nathrax get hungry. He pressed the control. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and every single protocol in the Galactic Union Emergency Response Manual became instantly, spectacularly useless. Inside Residential Module 9, sitting in a standard-issue rocking chair that was definitely not designed for the current situation, was a human woman. That wasn't the weird part. The weird part, and, oh, there was so much weird to unpack here, was that she had 3 Nathrax cubs curled up in her arms and across her lap like they were house cats. Actual Nathrax cubs. Each one roughly the size of a Gormath warhound, covered in dark scales that shimmered between midnight blue and deep purple, with rows of retractable spines along their backs that could pump enough venom to kill a grown Vrolian in minutes. Their claws, currently tucked away but visible as wicked curves against their paws, were capable of shredding composite armor. And they were purring. Purring. Nathrax don't purr. It's not a thing they do. It's not in their biological capability matrix. It's certainly not in any of the xenobiology textbooks, and Velnash would know because he'd read those too during a particularly boring deep space assignment. Yet here they were, making a sound somewhere between a motorized rumble and a contented growl, all snuggled up against this human like she was their mother. The human, because of course it was a human, who else would be in this situation, looked up at the 3 armed patrol members now frozen in her doorway. She had brown hair pulled back in a messy bun, grease stains on her work coveralls, and the kind of tired eyes that suggested she hadn't slept in at least 2 days. She raised one finger to her lips in the universal gesture for "be quiet." Then she spoke in a whisper that somehow carried more authority than Velnash's command voice. "You wake these babies, and we're all dead. Not me. You." Haas's rifle was still raised, his massive hands trembling slightly with the effort of not pulling the trigger on instinct. Dimri had gone completely still, which for Aquilin usually meant they were either about to run or had already mentally composed their will. Velnash found his voice first, though it came out higher than he would have liked. "Ma'am, those are Nathrax cubs." "I know what they are," the human whispered back. "I've been living with them for 2 days. 2? Velnash's brain stuttered. "You've been here for 2 days. With them. The apex predators. The things that have 17 different classifications for extremely dangerous in Union databases. 18, actually," she corrected. "But that's bureaucracy for you. Always missing the nuance." The largest of the 3 cubs shifted slightly, making a small chittering sound in its sleep. One of its paws flexed, and claws, each one as long as Velnash's finger, extended briefly before retracting again. The human adjusted her arm, creating a better pillow, and resumed the gentle rocking motion. The cub settled. "Lower your weapons," she said. It wasn't a request. "Ma'am, with all due respect," Velnash started. "Lower your weapons." Each word was quiet, calm, and absolutely non-negotiable. "You point guns at babies in front of me. I don't care what species they are. Besides, you fire in here, you'll definitely wake them up, and then we really will have problems." Hoss looked at Velnash. Velnash looked at Hoss. Dimri looked at the ceiling, possibly praying to whatever gods the Quillen believed in. Slowly, reluctantly, they lowered their weapons. Not holstered, let's not get crazy, but no longer aimed at the literally sleeping apocalypse in the human's lap. "Thank you," the human said. "Now, you want to tell me what took you so long? I sent that distress beacon out 36 hours ago." "We came as soon as we received it," Velnash replied, trying to maintain some semblance of professional protocol. "We're a patrol unit, not emergency response. The delay was—" He stopped, realizing he was explaining logistics to a woman casually holding death incarnate. "Actually, that's not important. What's important is extracting you safely, and what? Leaving them here?" The human's voice was still quiet, but now it had an edge. "These cubs just lost their mother, violently, in a cargo accident that wasn't their fault. Everyone else ran, which, fine, I get it. Self-preservation is valid. But someone had to stay." "Why?" Dimri asked, genuine confusion in their clicking voice. "Why would you stay? You're not Nathrax. You have no biological imperative to protect them. You could have evacuated with everyone else." The human looked down at the sleeping cubs, and her expression softened in a way that made Velnash's tactical hindbrain scream warnings. "Because they're babies," she said simply. "Scared babies who just watched their mom die. What was I supposed to do? Leave them to starve?" "Yes," Hoss exploded, though he managed to keep it to a harsh whisper. "Yes, that's exactly what you do. You leave the murder babies to their own devices, and you run. That's basic survival instinct. That's what every species with functional threat assessment does. Humans don't really do threat assessment the way you do," the human said, like she was explaining something obvious. "We kind of see babies first, danger second. It's a whole thing. Gets us in trouble a lot." Velnash felt his career flashing before his eyes. "Ma'am, I need your name for the report. Assuming we survive to file a report." "Sophia, Cargo Logistics Coordinator. Been on station for about 8 months. And before you ask, yes, I know this is insane. I've had 2 days to think about how insane it is." "2 days," Velnash repeated. "Walk me through this. You found the cubs after the accident, and instead of running, you— what? Picked them up?" Sophia actually laughed at that, a soft sound that didn't wake the cubs somehow. "Oh, no. Nothing that smooth. I found them in the cargo bay, huddled next to their mother's body, making these awful crying sounds, like nothing I'd ever heard. Just pure grief, you know?" She paused, her hand absently stroking the scales of the middle cub. It leaned into the touch. "I tried to leave," she continued. "Got about 10 meters before the smallest one— that's this little guy here— started following me. And I mean, what do you do when something follows you? Looking that pitiful? Even if that something has venomous spines and claws?" "You run faster," Hoss suggested. "I turned around," Sophia said, ignoring him. "Sat down on the floor. Let them approach. Figured if I was going to die, might as well not die running." "That's the worst survival strategy I've ever heard," Dimri said. "Probably. But here's the thing. They didn't attack. They were scared. The smallest one crawled right into my lap. Then the other two followed, and they just stayed there, shaking, making these sad little noises. She looked up at the patrol team, and there was something defiant in her eyes. So yeah, I stayed. Brought them here to my quarters because it was safer than the cargo bay. Fed them. You fed them, Belnash interrupted. What did you feed them? Protein rations mixed with synthesized amino compounds from the medical bay. Took some trial and error. She held up her left hand, showing a bandaged thumb. Got bit once. Wasn't fun, but we figured it out. Trial and error, Haas repeated slowly. With Nathrax cubs. I grew up on a farm, Sophia said. Like that explained everything. Maybe it did. Humans were notorious for domesticating things that absolutely should not be domesticated. You learn pretty quick how to read animal behavior. Hungry babies act the same whether they're calves, kittens, or whatever these guys are. The middle cub yawned in its sleep, showing rows of needle-sharp teeth designed for ripping flesh. Sophia didn't even flinch. You've been rocking them to sleep? Belnash asked, because his brain was still trying to process the sheer impossibility of the scene. Well, yeah, they're babies. Babies like routine. Feeding every 6 hours, quiet time, and they sleep better with movement. Basic child care. She paused. Deadly, venomous, could kill me instantly child care. But still. This is the most insane thing I've ever witnessed, Dimri said, and I once saw a Quillen try to mate with a food processor. This is worse. Look, Sophia said, I get that this looks crazy from the outside. But it's been working. They trust me now. They feel safe. And honestly, they're kind of sweet when they're not being apex predators. Sweet, Haas said flatly. The Nathrax are sweet. The cubs are sweet, Sophia corrected. Big difference. Belnash pulled out his datapad, scrolling through emergency protocols that definitely didn't cover this. Sophia, I need you to understand the situation. There's an adult male Nathrax approaching this station. He'll be here in less than 2 hours. When he arrives, he'll want his kids back, Sophia finished. I know. I've been expecting him. The casual way she said it made Belnash's scales stand up. You've been expecting a fully grown, territorial male Nathrax to show up, and you stayed anyway? Someone has to return the cubs. Can't exactly send them via mail. That's... Belnash stopped, searching for words. That's not how this works. When a Nathrax male finds out his mate is dead, he doesn't come to collect his offspring peacefully. He comes for revenge. He'll tear through this station looking for whoever's responsible, and he won't care about collateral damage. Then we'll explain it was an accident, Sophia said. Explain. To a Nathrax. They're intelligent, aren't they? Your own databases classify them as sentient adjacent. So, yeah, we explain. Haas leaned against the doorframe, his rifle hanging loose in his hands. Human. I've seen what Nathrax do when they're angry. Explanation doesn't factor into it. There's only rage and violence and death. That's the species. Or maybe, Sophia said quietly, that's what happens when everyone treats them like monsters first and beings second. The room fell silent except for the purring of the cubs. Belnash ran a hand over his head crest, feeling a stress shed coming on. We need to evacuate you. Now. Before the father arrives. No. That's not a request. That's... Still no. Sophia's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. You try to move me by force, you'll wake them. They wake up startled in the middle of a bunch of armed strangers, and we all know how that ends. She was right. She was absolutely, infuriatingly right. So, what do you suggest? Belnash asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Sophia looked down at the sleeping cubs, then back up at the patrol team. We wait. We let him come. We show him his cubs are safe. And we hope he understands. Hope, Haas said. Our entire survival plan is hope. Welcome to human decision-making, Sophia replied. It's terrifying, but sometimes it works. Somewhere in the distance, the station's long-range sensors pinged another update. The Nathrax father was getting closer, moving faster than predicted. They had maybe an hour and a half now. Velnash looked at his two-person team, looked at the human in the rocking chair, looked at the 3 sleeping apex predators who had somehow decided this particular human was safe. And then he did something that wasn't in any of the 8,326 regulations. He sat down on the floor, keeping his rifle within reach but no longer raised. Fine, he said. We wait. But when this goes wrong, and it will go wrong, I'm putting in my report that I advised immediate evacuation. Noted, Sophia said. Anyone want coffee? I've got some brewing in the corner. Figured we might need it. Because, apparently, when you're babysitting Nathrax cubs and waiting for their angry father to show up, you still make coffee. Humans, Velnash thought, are absolutely out of their minds. But he took the coffee anyway. It was going to be a long wait. The coffee was terrible, which somehow made the whole situation feel more surreal. Here they were, sitting in a residential module on a half-abandoned mining station, drinking burnt synthetic coffee while waiting for an apex predator to arrive and potentially kill them all. Velnash had been in combat situations. He'd faced down pirates, negotiated with hostile species, even survived a reactor breach on the edge of the contested fringe. None of that had prepared him for the peculiar anxiety of watching a human rock 3 Nathrax cubs to sleep while making small talk about cargo manifests. So the loading mech just tipped over? Dimri asked from their position by the window, where they'd been nervously monitoring the station's exterior sensors. Weight distribution failure, Sophia explained, keeping her voice low. The cubs had woken up about 20 minutes ago, been fed, which was a whole alarming process involving Sophia hand-feeding them protein chunks while they made happy chirping sounds, and were now drowsing again. The mother was being transported in a reinforced container, but someone miscalculated the loading sequence. Mech went over, container breached, and... She trailed off. It was quick, at least. She didn't suffer long. And you saw this happen? Velnash asked. Heard it. Was on the other side of the cargo bay doing inventory checks. By the time I got there, it was over. Sophia's hand moved in slow, steady strokes down the largest cub's back, careful to avoid the spine ridge. Everyone else had already hit the evacuation alarm. Station manager ordered a full withdrawal within 30 minutes. But you stayed, Haas said. He'd been quiet for a while, processing, which for a Gormith usually meant internal conflict between training and instinct. I stayed, Sophia confirmed. Made my choice. Sent the distress beacon so someone would know what happened, then focused on keeping these 3 alive until help arrived. She smiled, though it looked tired. You're a bit later than I hoped, but better late than never, right? The station's alert system chose that moment to blare a proximity warning that made everyone except Sophia jump. The cubs stirred, making annoyed grumbling sounds, but didn't fully wake. Shh, shh, it's okay, Sophia murmured, resuming her rocking rhythm. Just a noise. You're safe. Dimri's voice was about 3 octaves higher than usual. Commander, the father just entered the station's outer defense perimeter. He's big, really big. Sensors are showing him at nearly 4 meters long, not counting the tail. 4 meters. Most Nathrax males topped out at 3, maybe 3.5 if they were particularly well fed. 4 meters meant this one was older, stronger, and probably angrier than average. "Where's he now?" Belnash asked, standing and moving to the window. "Approaching the main airlock. He's not using the docking procedures. Looks like he's just going to—" The entire station shuddered. Metal screamed somewhere in the distance, a sound like hull plating being torn apart by something that didn't care about structural integrity or basic physics. "Force his way in," Dimri finished weakly. "Yeah, he's forcing his way in." The cubs woke up fully this time, their heads snapping up in unison. They made a sound, high-pitched, urgent, that Sophia had learned meant they were picking up on something. A scent, maybe, or some other sense humans didn't have. "It's okay," Sophia said, though her voice had gone tight. "That's your father. He's coming for you." The largest cub chirped and tried to scramble out of her lap. She held firm, gentle but insistent. "Not yet, little one. Not yet. We need to do this carefully." Another crash, closer now. The father was moving through the station, and he wasn't being subtle about it. Velnash could track his progress by the sound of destruction, metal bending, doors being ripped from their housings, the occasional spark of electrical systems failing. "He's in the main corridor," Dimri reported, their antennae flat against their head, the Quillen equivalent of pure terror. "Heading this way. 80 meters. 60. 40. Hoss raised his rifle again, finger near the trigger but not on it. "Commander, we need a plan that's better than hope the murder machine understands." "I'm open to suggestions," Velnash snapped, his own weapon now in his hands. "Don't point those at him," Sophia said sharply. "You point weapons at a father looking for his children. He's not going to stop to ask questions." "He's not going to stop anyway," Hoss shot back. The sound of claws on metal decking, scraping, deliberate, getting closer, 20 meters. The cubs were chittering now, trying to get free, clearly sensing their father's approach. Sophia held them, but she was struggling. 3 Nathrax cubs that wanted to move were a lot of weight and muscle, even for a determined human. "Sophia, if this goes bad, you get behind us," Velnash ordered. "We'll hold him off long enough for you to—" "To what? Outrun a Nathrax? Through a station he's actively destroying?" She shook her head. "No. We do this my way, or we all die. Those are the options." 10 meters. They could see the shadow now, massive and predatory, cast by the corridor lighting. 6-limbed, low to the ground, spine ridge raised in what was definitely an aggressive posture. The cubs went wild, making sounds that were half distress, half excitement. Their claws extended, scrabbling at Sophia's coveralls, shredding the fabric, but somehow not breaking her skin, like they were consciously trying not to hurt her even in their agitation. The shadow reached the doorway. Velnash's finger moved to the trigger. Beside him, Hoss was already sighting down his rifle barrel, targeting center mass. And then the father Nathrax entered the room, and every tactical assessment went straight out the airlock. He was enormous. 4 meters didn't do him justice. He filled the doorway completely, had to actually lower his head to fit under the frame. His scales were darker than the cubs, a deep black with streaks of crimson running through them like veins of molten metal. The spine ridge along his back was fully extended, each spine as long as Velnash's forearm, and undoubtedly filled with enough neurotoxin to kill everyone in the room several times over. His eyes, 6 of them, arranged in 2 rows of 3, locked onto the patrol team, specifically onto their weapons. The growl that came from his throat wasn't just sound. It was a physical thing, a vibration that Velnash could feel in his bones, a noise that bypassed rational thought and went straight to the primitive hindbrain that screamed, "Predator! Run!" "Lower the weapons," Sophia said. Not a whisper now, a command. "Are you insane?" Hoss hissed. "Lower them, now!" The father Nathrax took a step forward, claws clicking on the floor. His mouth opened slightly, showing teeth designed to crush and tear. The air smelled like ozone and something organic, sharp and dangerous. Velnash made a decision that would either save their lives or get them killed in the next 5 seconds. "Lower weapons," he ordered. "Commander!" "That's an order, Lieutenant." Slowly, painfully, they lowered their rifles. Not holstered, because Velnash wasn't that trusting, but pointed at the floor instead of at the creature that could kill them all before they could even pull the triggers. The father Nathrax stopped. His eyes shifted from the patrol team to Sophia, to the cubs in her arms. The cubs were making constant noise now, a stream of clicks and chirps and sounds that must have meant something in whatever language Nathrax spoke. The father's head tilted, listening. Then his gaze locked back on Sophia, and Velnash watched something happen that shouldn't have been possible. The spine ridge lowered. Not completely. The father was still clearly on edge, but no longer in full attack posture. "Hey there," Sophia said quietly, calmly, like she was greeting a neighbor instead of addressing a 4-meter killing machine. "I know you've had a really bad few days. I'm sorry about your mate. That was an accident, a stupid, preventable accident, and I'm sorry." The father made a sound, not a growl this time, something more complex, almost questioning. "These are your kids," Sophia continued, shifting slightly to show the cubs more clearly. "They're okay. I've been keeping them safe, fed, clean. They're healthy." She started to stand, moving slowly, telegraphing every motion. The cubs squirmed in her arms, reaching toward their father with their front limbs. The father took another step closer. Then another. His eyes never left Sophia, tracking her with the focus of something deciding whether she was a threat. Dimri was making a sound that might have been praying. Hoss had gone statue still, barely breathing. Velnash had his hand on his sidearm, knowing it would do exactly nothing if things went wrong, but needing the comfort anyway. Sophia kept talking, her voice low and soothing. "I know I'm not your species. I know I probably smell weird to you, and you don't know why some random human has been taking care of your babies. But they needed someone, and I was here, and I couldn't just leave them." The father was close enough now that Velnash could see every detail, the scarring on his armor plating, the way his muscles moved under his scales, the intelligence in those 6 eyes. Because that was the thing everyone forgot about Nathrax when they were busy being terrified. They were smart. Not just clever, not just cunning, but genuinely, provably intelligent. The Union had debates about granting them full sentient status, but politics kept getting in the way of science. Right now, watching the father watch Sophia, Velnash could see that intelligence calculating, assessing, trying to understand this bizarre situation. "You can take them," Sophia said. "They're yours. I was just keeping them safe until you got here." She knelt down slowly, letting the cubs touch the floor. They immediately scrambled toward their father, tumbling over each other in their excitement, making happy sounds that echoed through the room. The father lowered his head, and the cubs swarmed him, climbing on his back, nuzzling against his neck, chirping constantly. He made a sound back, deeper, resonant, unmistakably paternal. For a moment, everyone forgot about the danger and just watched a family reunion. Then the father looked up at Sophia again. She stood there, arms now empty, looking small and fragile compared to the massive creature in front of her. Waiting, not running, meeting his gaze. The father moved. Velnash's hand went to his weapon. But the father wasn't attacking. He was lowering himself, bringing his head down to Sophia's level. One massive paw reached out, claws retracted, and touched her hand. Gentle, deliberate. Then he made a sound, a rumbling purr, not unlike what the cubs had been doing. "You're welcome," Sophia whispered, and Velnash realized she was crying. "Take care of them, okay? They're good kids." The father pulled back, gathered his cubs with a gesture that was surprisingly tender, and turned toward the door. But he stopped, turned back. And then he did something that would be debated by xenobiologists for decades. He lowered his head again, opened his mouth carefully, and dropped something at Sophia's feet. A spine. One of his own spines, broken off deliberately at the base. It gleamed in the room's lighting, crystalline and beautiful and absolutely terrifying in what it represented. "Commander," Dimri whispered, Is that what I think it is?" Velnash couldn't speak. His datapad was already scanning the object, confirming what his eyes were seeing, but his brain refused to process. It was a clan token, a Nathrax protection marker, encoded with biosignatures that would identify Sophia to any other Nathrax in the galaxy as untouchable, protected, under the direct guardianship of this male's clan. The father made one more sound, something that might have been gratitude or acknowledgement, or perhaps something that didn't translate into any language the patrol team knew. Then he left, his cubs following, disappearing into the damaged corridors of Station Helix 9. The room was silent, except for Sophia's quiet crying and the distant sound of the Nathrax family making their way back to their ship. "Did that just happen?" Dimri asked after a very long moment. "I don't know," Velnash said honestly. "I genuinely don't know." Sophia bent down and picked up the spine, holding it carefully. "He said thank you," she said, in his way. "How do you know?" Hoss asked, his weapon finally lowering completely. Sophia looked at them, tears still on her face, but smiling now. "Because I would do the same thing if someone saved my kids." Velnash sat down hard on the nearest chair. His legs had suddenly decided they were done supporting his weight. They'd just survived a situation that should have killed them all. Not through superior firepower, not through clever tactics, not through any protocol in the Union manual. They'd survived because a human decided to see babies instead of monsters. And somehow, impossibly, the monster had agreed. The paperwork was going to be an absolute nightmare. Velnash stared at his datapad, trying to figure out how to write a report that wouldn't get him flagged for psychological evaluation. Human crew member successfully negotiated peaceful contact with hostile Nathrax male through... What? Through rocking his children to sleep? Through basic child care? Through sheer audacity and a complete lack of survival instinct? "You going to file that anytime soon?" Hoss asked. They were still in Sophia's quarters, nobody quite ready to move yet. The adrenaline crash had hit all of them hard. "I'm working on it," Velnash muttered. "How do I explain this? How do I put this in a report that won't make command think I've lost my mind?" "Tell the truth," Sophia suggested. She was sitting in her rocking chair again, still holding the spine token, turning it over in her hands like she couldn't quite believe it was real. "Guy came for his kids, found them safe, said thanks, left. Simple." "Simple," Dimri repeated, their antennae twitching. Nothing about the last 3 hours was simple. That was the most complex emotional and tactical situation I've ever witnessed, and it resolved itself through... They paused, searching for words. Through hugging. Through interspecies hugging. I mean, There was more to it than that, Sophia said, but she was smiling. Belnash looked up from his datapad. Was there, though? Because from my perspective, you gambled all our lives on the hope that an apex predator would understand empathy. That's not tactics. That's not protocol. That's... He stopped, because he genuinely didn't have a word for it. Human, Haas supplied. That's just how humans are. They see something suffering and they can't help themselves. Even when that something has claws and venom and a bite force that could crush starship components. We're not all like that, Sophia protested. Really? Name one human who wouldn't have at least tried to help those cubs? Sophia opened her mouth, closed it, thought about it. Okay, fair point. We're kind of terrible at self-preservation when kids are involved. Any kids. Doesn't matter what species. It's insane, Dimri said. It's beautiful, Velnash corrected quietly, surprising himself. When everyone looked at him, he continued, think about it. Every species in the Union has threat assessment protocols. We're taught from birth to recognize danger and respond appropriately. That's survival. That's evolution. That's smart. But, Sophia prompted, but it also means we see threats first and individuals second. That Nathrax father? To us, he was a threat rating of 10, a walking apocalypse, something to avoid or destroy. To you, he gestured at her. To you, he was a grieving widower looking for his children, and somehow, you made him see that you understood that. I just talked to him like a person, Sophia said, because that's what he is. Not a monster, not just an animal, a person with feelings and family and loss. Haas leaned back against the wall, his massive frame making it creak slightly. Command is going to want to study this. You know that, right? First peaceful close contact interaction with a Nathrax male in recorded history. They'll want to understand how you did it. I didn't do anything special. You absolutely did, Belnash interrupted. You extended empathy to something that everyone else in the galaxy has written off as unreachable. And it worked. Against all logic, against all probability, it worked. Sophia looked down at the spine token again. Maybe the problem is that everyone else stopped trying. Maybe Nathrax are aggressive because we treat them like monsters, and they're just responding to how we see them. Or maybe you got lucky, Dimri suggested. Maybe the next human who tries this gets torn apart. Maybe, Sophia admitted, but maybe not. Maybe there's a whole conversation we could be having with species we've written off as hostile. Maybe we're missing connections because we're too busy being afraid. The room fell quiet. Outside, they could hear the station's automated systems starting repair diagnostics, assessing the damage from the father's entrance. It would take weeks to fix properly, but the station was still functional, still alive. Like all of them. I'm putting you in for a commendation, Velnash said finally. Citation for extraordinary courage in the face of extreme danger, for successful diplomatic contact with a hostile species, for, he waved his hand vaguely, for whatever this was. I don't need a medal for babysitting, Sophia said. You babysat apex predators and lived, Haas pointed out. That deserves something. Sophia stood up, stretching muscles that were clearly sore from 2 days of holding sleeping Nathrax cubs. You know what would be great? If this changes something. If Command actually takes this seriously and starts researching peaceful Nathrax contact instead of just treating them like pests to be avoided or exterminated. That's optimistic, Velnash said. I'm human. We specialize in optimistic stupidity. She smiled. It's kind of our thing. Dimri moved to the window, looking out at the stars. The father's ship is leaving. Sensors show him and the cubs aboard, heading toward the contested fringe. They all watched through the viewport as the Nathrax vessel, organic-looking, grown rather than built, accelerated away from the station. In a few moments, it would jump to faster than light and be gone. "Think we'll ever see them again?" Sophia asked. "With that token?" Velnash nodded toward the spine she still held. "Possibly. Nathrax have long memories. He marked you as clan-adjacent. That's not something they do lightly." "Clan-adjacent," Sophia repeated, testing the words. "I have to admit, that sounds pretty cool. It means you're under his protection. Any Nathrax who scans that token will know you're not to be harmed. You've basically got diplomatic immunity in their society." Velnash paused. Of course, explaining that to other humans might be tricky. "Don't worry," the murder lizard said, "I'm cool." That got a laugh from everyone, tension finally breaking into something lighter. "Come on," Velnash said, standing and offering Sophia his hand. "Let's get you evacuated properly this time. Medical checkup, formal debriefing, and probably about 18 different psychological evaluations." "Sounds fun," Sophia said, taking his hand and pulling herself up. "But can we get real food first? I've been living on ration bars for 2 days." "I think we can arrange that." They filed out of the residential module, leaving behind the rocking chair and the space where something impossible had happened. The station corridors were damaged but navigable, and the patrol ship was still docked and functional. As they walked, Velnash found himself thinking about the 8,326 regulations in the Union Emergency Response Protocol Manual. Somewhere in there, someone was going to have to add a new section. Something about humans. Something about empathy as a tactical asset. Something about how sometimes the most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't the monster. It's the person who refuses to see it as one. "Hey, Commander," Sophia said as they reached the airlock. "Yes? Thanks for not shooting. I know that went against all your training." Velnash considered that. "You know what the first rule of patrol work is? Protect civilian lives. We did that today. Unconventionally, terrifyingly, but we did it." "And the cubs," Sophia added. "You protected them too." "I didn't protect them. You did." Sophia smiled. "Then I guess we both did our jobs." They boarded the patrol ship, leaving station Helix 9 behind. Within the week, the story would spread through back channels and crew mess halls, getting more embellished with each retelling. The human who babysat death. The cargo coordinator who made a Nathrax purr. The woman who got a clan token through sheer audacity. Some of it would be believed. Most of it wouldn't. But Velnash would file his report anyway, complete with sensor data and witness testimony and the truth that nobody wanted to hear. Humans were dangerous, yes, but not because they were warriors. Because they looked at the galaxy's nightmares and said, "Have you tried talking to them?" And sometimes, impossibly, the nightmares talked back.